The Supreme Court ruled on Wednesday that Virginia can proceed with its plan to remove approximately 1,600 alleged non-citizens from its voter rolls, just days before the 2024 election. Now, before we start, please subscribe to the channel to be a part of our growing family. Coming back to the topic. This decision marks a significant development in a contentious legal battle between the state and the U.S. Department of Justice, which filed a lawsuit earlier in October. At issue is whether Virginia's removal of non-citizens from the voter registration list violates federal law, specifically the National Voter Registration Act, NVRA, which includes provisions about how states handle voter list maintenance in the months leading up to federal elections. The High Court granted Virginia's request to pause a lower court's injunction that had previously halted the voter roll purge. This injunction was initially granted by U.S. District Judge Patricia Giles, who ruled in favor of the Justice Department, finding that Virginia's action likely violated federal law, which mandates a 90-day quiet period before federal elections in which states are restricted from making certain changes to their voter rolls. Federal officials argue this quiet period is essential to protect eligible voters from accidental disenfranchisement due to administrative errors in purge programs, allowing them enough time to correct any mistakes before they are unable to vote. Justice Department officials have stated that they believe every eligible citizen has the right to participate in federal elections. In a statement, a department spokesperson said, "The department brought this suit to ensure that every eligible American citizen can vote in our elections. We disagree with the Supreme Court's order." The injunction aimed to restore the registrations of those removed under Virginia's program until the matter could be fully resolved in court. The Supreme Court's ruling came down with Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Elena Kagan, and Ketanji Brown Jackson dissenting. They indicated they would have denied Virginia's request, allowing the lower court's injunction to stand. This decision is provisional as the case progresses through the courts, but it allows the purge to proceed for the upcoming election on November 5, 2024. The Supreme Court did not provide reasoning in its order, which is typical for cases handled on the emergency docket, and the vote count was not disclosed. The ruling underscores the high stakes involved in the debate over voter roll maintenance and the tension between federal and state authority in election administration. Virginia's voter removal initiative began in August 2024, following an executive order from Governor Glenn Youngkin, a Republican. Youngkin's order formalized an existing program that removes non-citizens from the voter rolls based on information from the Department of Motor Vehicles, DMV. While Virginia has maintained a similar program for several years, Youngkin's order increased the data sharing frequency between the DMV and the Department of Elections from monthly to daily, which officials said would help ensure accuracy and currency in the voter lists. However, the program's timing, launched exactly 90 days before Election Day, drew criticism from federal officials and advocacy groups who argued that the state violated the NVRA's quiet period provision. According to state officials, the program was necessary to prevent non-citizens from voting in federal elections, which is prohibited under both federal and Virginia law. The NVRA, however, includes restrictions on voter roll maintenance activities during the 90-day period leading up to a federal election, aiming to limit any potential for eligible voters to be mistakenly removed. This provision is designed to give voters time to rectify any issues that might mistakenly remove their eligibility due to an administrative error. Governor Youngkin responded to the Supreme Court decision with support, describing it as a victory for common sense and election fairness. He stated that the goal of the program was to ensure fair elections, saying, "Clean voter rolls are one important part of a comprehensive approach we are taking to ensure the fairness of our elections. Virginians also know that we have paper ballots, counting machines not connected to the internet, a strong chain of custody process, signature verification, monitored and secure drop boxes, and a triple-check vote counting process to tabulate results." Youngkin asserted that these measures collectively support election security and voter confidence. The Justice Department contends that Virginia's program to remove non-citizens from the voter rolls falls within the quiet period provision of the NVRA and that it should not have been implemented so close to the election. The department's lawsuit argued that while Virginia could legally remove ineligible voters, it should not have implemented a sweeping purge program during the quiet period. the Justice Department further asserted that the purge could mistakenly disenfranchise eligible voters, particularly those who may be erroneously flagged as non-citizens. Judge Patricia Giles of the U.S. District Court had ruled in favor of the Justice Department's request for a preliminary injunction last week. In her ruling, she emphasized that some individuals who were removed from the rolls under the program might, in fact, be eligible to vote. She found that the state's approach violated federal law by carrying out systematic voter removal during the restricted period, rather than performing individualized checks. Her order required Virginia to restore the registrations of approximately 1,600 people who had been purged from the voter rolls. Additionally, a three-judge panel from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit upheld this ruling, asserting that Virginia's actions likely contravened the NVRA. The panel found that Virginia officials could not prove all those removed were non-citizens, and that eligible voters might have been removed in error. They reiterated that the quiet period provision intends to prevent widespread removals, which could lead to disenfranchisement of eligible voters. In its appeal to the Supreme Court, Virginia argued that the quiet period provision should not apply to non-citizens, since they are not eligible voters by law. According to state officials, non-citizens identified by the DMV are informed that their registration is subject to cancellation and are given 14 days to verify their citizenship status if they wish to retain their right to vote. They also argued that the Justice Department and voting rights organizations are unnecessarily interfering with Virginia's established election procedures, alleging that their involvement at this late stage creates confusion and increases the burden on election workers as they prepare for the general election. State officials further noted that, while the Youngkin administration's order increased the reporting frequency of non-citizen information, it did not establish the removal program itself. The program has reportedly been in place for years, with the recent change intended to improve accuracy and avoid situations where non-citizens remain on the rolls due to delayed updates. The case in Virginia highlights broader debates over voter list maintenance and the role of federal law in guiding state election practices. Similar lawsuits have emerged in other states. For instance, the Justice Department recently filed a suit against Alabama regarding its process for removing alleged non-citizens from the voter rolls. Alabama began its program in August 2024, 84 days before Election Day, and was accused of erroneously flagging over 2,000 eligible voters as non-citizens. Earlier this month, a federal judge blocked Alabama from proceeding with the purge and ordered the state to reinstate voters who had been incorrectly deemed ineligible. The Alabama case further underscores the challenges that arise when states implement voter roll maintenance programs close to federal elections. Proponents argue that such programs are essential to election security, while opponents warn that they increase the risk of disenfranchising legitimate voters. As the case continues, both Virginia and the Justice Department remain committed to their respective positions. The Justice Department has argued that Virginia's program, as structured, infringes upon the rights of eligible voters by imposing unnecessary hurdles close to Election Day. Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar stated in a filing that, without injunctive relief to remedy Virginia's violation of the quiet period provision, eligible citizens will suffer unjustified burdens on their right to vote, potentially including disenfranchisement. Federal officials maintain that the NVRA quiet period aims to safeguard against the unintended removal of eligible voters, and they contend that individual voter verification could help address the concerns raised without posing a threat to voting rights. Meanwhile, Virginia officials remain confident that their actions are justified under both state and federal law. They argue that the program provides ample opportunity for flagged individuals to clarify their citizenship status and that federal intervention is unnecessary. Do tell us your thoughts about this in the comment section below. See you guys in the next video.